Hey everybody, it's me, Lila again. One more time. There's going to be a lot more times. All right, so this is what began as anecdote number one. This is confirmed fuckery, anecdote number one. Are you actually this stupid, or the fuck you don't know what a shipping label is? So this one might sound a little bit rude from the outset, but I promise you, anyone with, I mean, just wait for it. Okay, this is literally one of the, I think, wildest interactions I've ever had on an extended basis. And yes, I apologize, but also like sorry, not sorry for where I am recording this from today. We're getting sounds of the city. Um, a nice little variety of that as I am doing this project. So I'll at least wait for the right. So that was actually kind of auspicious because as soon as I said I'm going to wait for the bus to go by, my uh, phone went to sleep because I forgot I'm on low power mode again. And so, yeah, we're back to this. All right. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and conserve battery today because I didn't go to Whole Foods. I usually go to Whole Foods on Sundays because the library is closed. But someone gave me a $20 McDonald's gift card for my birthday, and McDonald's also then gives you a free item for your birthday. So I'm kind of just creeping over here somewhere else for a minute today, but there's nowhere to plug in my phone to charge it. So luckily, I not only bought my own battery pack about a week or so ago, just in case of instances like this, but the person who gave me the $20 McDonald's gift card yesterday also gave me a battery pack that they weren't using. They're like, hey, thought you might want this, right? And I'm like, shit. But that's okay. So now I have two. So, anywho, but it wasn't charged. So here we are on low power mode. So forgive the cacophony behind me. I am where I am. And it is what it is because the world is how it should be if you're a determinist. And we're clearly probably doing something really fucking wrong if you're not. So, anyway, that being said, let's just dive right into this because this is one of my favorite. This is like one of those. This is one of my favorite stories. And this is one that I would tell friends and stuff, and they would say, "Girl, you need to start a diary and keep a journal and put this into a book because this is some absolutely crazy stuff." So I have been struggling with a format for this, the first of the What the Actual Fuck Chronicles, because it would make a great exercise for a second grade reading comprehension lesson about context clues. I don't think I can write the story without giving away the answer, which is probably just a consequence of this being so fucking dumb. I don't even know where to start to make this develop in the most interesting way possible, so I'll just start at the beginning. The story itself isn't the most interesting part anyway. It's his reaction to finally grasping the situation that's a real brow crimper. So Poshmark is a website and mobile app that allows you to sell new or slightly used clothing, jewelry, accessories, and cosmetics. The items are mostly department store brands. That was a hard shift, right? It was like we're just diving in cold, like the polar bear challenge, right? Anyway, I promise this is where this starts from. Okay. The items are mostly department store brands, designer, and luxury, but can also be boutique items which come directly from the manufacturer, or like Etsy, right? That you can have like an Etsy style store on Poshmark as well. I have a lot of good stuff that I picked up when I worked at Ross, as well as from the YWCA Dress for Success sale. I can grab a new with tags designer shirt for $5 and sell it on Poshmark for $30. So the YWCA Dress for Success program is like people can donate like business casual and interview worthy clothes so that people who are trying to get back on their feet can get a nice outfit. Back in the day, I got a brand new, really nice, like gray Calvin Klein sheath dress from there. It was so cute. Anyway, just saying. They have like really cute stuff, and people donate so much that every month it's like the third Wednesday and Thursday of the month. They just basically have a huge garage sale, and they roll everything out onto the main floor of the YWCA, and it's just plain old shirts are $5, pants are $5, dresses are 10, full suits and coats are 10, and then they have all kinds of accessories and stuff too, and a lot of it is new with tags and all that jazz. And like I said, sometimes they have really good stuff. So anyway, and I also know one of my favorite YouTubers. It's called she's Refashioned Hippie, all one word, basically spelled the way it's supposed to be spelled. And she does a lot of content making fun of high end fashion and just like she did like crazy rich people style kind of stuff. And um, we're not talking like normal clothes that cost an exorbitant amount of money, like $11,000 Escada ball gowns. We're talking like weird Balenciaga shit and like what is the other one, Wolf and Badger, and like all kinds of really avant-garde stuff. But anyway, so just shameless plug for her because she's great. Okay, anyway, but this is what she does. I think in real life, like as her job, she's a merchandise reseller. So anyway, you could actually kind of eke out a decent enough living on this if you can find good enough pieces. But here in Honolulu, like they're just it's so isolated that I bet you'd have to be somewhere like New York or Chicago or LA or like an actual big market, I think, to be able to pull this off. But for me, just being able to find one or two pieces here and there, this was how I was able to actually have an income while I was living with him. So anyway, yeah, and I personally also just own some things that like I'd either for whatever reason had never worn or had only worn like one time and then, never had a reason to wear again. Like I had a really cute black like Calvin Klein jumpsuit that I got at Ross that I wore one time to an event and then it just was like hanging around. So anywho. And then I also started making my own jewelry and stuff like that. So like I sold like a pony bead candy harness to somebody once through Poshmark and stuff like that. So anywho, all that being said, let's move it on. So far, this has been free advertising for an online marketplace that operates the same as catalogs, eBay, Amazon, Wish, like hell, anywhere you order something from someone else that has to be mailed to you. What do all of these services have in common? Someone pays for the shipping. Duh, right? The mailman must be paid. Usually, the buyer pays for the shipping. Whether something is purchased from television, a catalog, or online, since time immemorial, common sense says that someone pays for the shipping. On Poshmark, the shipping is paid through the transaction. Either the buyer pays the regular $6.50 shipping, or the seller offers a deal that includes a shipping discount that they then basically pay for out of the earnings for the item. No matter how it's sliced, Poshmark gets $6.50 for shipping and then produces a label that is sent via email to the seller to print in order to mail the package. Right? So it's like it's generated the postage paid with the buyer's address and stuff on it, and it also can be used as the return shipping label, and then you print it out and you tape it to the box. Right? Easy peasy. One would think. Right? Oh, wait for it. All right. When a buyer purchases an item, the money is held in escrow by Poshmark, who then produces a shipping label specific to the purchase that the seller then prints out to mail the package with. When the buyer receives the item, they have the option to either accept the item or send it back to the seller. If they accept the item, they indicate this on Poshmark, and the money is transferred to the seller minus the transaction fees. After the item is purchased, a shipping label is produced postage prepaid, made out with the sender and receiver's addresses so that may also be used as a return label in the event the buyer rejects the item. The seller then prints out the label, affixes it to the package, and drops it off with the post office. Easy peasy. I hope that I have made it painstakingly clear that when something is sold on Poshmark, there is a shipping label produced that includes the addresses of the parties involved as well as paid postage codes so that the package can be mailed by the seller free of charge because sellers don't pay fucking postage on items that they sell. Is it clear? Are you aggravated with me yet? Imagine this being a concept that actually takes this much explanation for someone to grasp. Now imagine having to do this 3 fucking times. I have, at this writing, sold 3 items on Poshmark. Each time I asked him to print out the shipping label for me. We don't have a printer at home, so he goes to the printing place downtown that he usually goes to because it's where all the attorneys go since it's right across the street from the district courthouse. He was like a fanboy of the legal system, right? So it was like this was a thing. And because he has his bus pass, because he's senior and disabled, so he has a bus pass and I don't. So it's easier for him to just hop on the bus, roll down there, print it off, and roll back. Okay, that's why he's doing it for me. It's not because, oh my God, put this man to work. It's because, like, and he'd usually offer anyway. If I was like, dude, I need to print this thing off, and he'd be like, okay, I'll go do it because he's just excited to have to go down and like do stuff because it gives him an opportunity to feign that he's like a part of that group, right? Okay, I have at this writing sold 3 items on Poshmark. Okay, he rolls down to get it. This inspires the first frustration of the mission, convincing him that I only need one fucking copy. Uno, one copy, one package, one fucking label. The second frustration of the mission is that when I leave to take the package to the post office, so the post office was within walking distance from the apartment, so he'd come back with the shipping label, I'd box up the package, tape it on, and then I'd walk it to the post office myself. It was like one of the only times I got any real freedom. Um, and so, yeah, so it was like there was, 2 birds with one stone selling stuff on Poshmark. I get a little money and I get to leave the house for 30 minutes. Holy shit. All right. So when I would leave to take the package to the post office, he asks if I need money to mail it. I would explain that I don't need money to mail the package. That's what the shipping label he printed out for me is for. The first couple of times he seemed satisfied with this response. Yesterday, however, when he asked if I needed money to mail the package, I became a little more forceful in my explanation. No, that's what the shipping label is. It's a prepaid postage label, same as every other time I have done this. The buyer pays for the postage, and the company produces a shipping label to send the package with. I think that I have never gone into this detail before because it seems thoroughly ridiculous to me to have to explain this to an adult human being who orders things online all the time. He has even lamented to me about the fact that it's hard to find free shipping to Hawaii, so I know he has experience with the concept of buyers paying for the shipping of packages. He also receives packages with shipping labels on them. He is familiar with these concepts and items. He has asked me if I'm going to sell my handmade jewelry and accessories on eBay. I have no fucking idea why it's the case that when it comes to applying these experiences to me and my activities, it suddenly becomes arcane. So remember, I've already introduced the conspiracy theory aspects of this, right? This is one of my biggest pieces of evidence. This is Exhibit A right here. What's about to go down finally with like the once and for all, third time's the charm showdown about how this shipping is working, and there's a bus coming, so one moment, please, even though I'll edit this out anyway. It's almost a shame how full these buses are on a Sunday afternoon because it's all people going to and from work. And it's about 1 o'clock. So it's like everybody who started places like 5, 6 in the morning and stuff like that are just now getting off. Like, whatever happened to everything being Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 or whatever, or something close to it. And then on weekends, people actually at least had Sundays off, like everybody, and people knew how to cook and nobody was going out to eat or like doing any of this stuff. Like, everybody was just at home chilling, watching football and like eating tuna casserole. But anyway, I digress. His next question bowled me over, though. Just when you think things can't get any worse. Well, why don't you just print a bunch of copies then? Are you fucking serious? I maintain my composure and reiterate that the label is generated specifically to the transaction with the buyer's address and shipping payment for the item inside that package. Because I'm not sending multiple packages to the same person. The gravity of the stupidity of this question wouldn't hit me until later, though, probably because I was soon struck with the grand finale. Oh, I've been wondering how you guys do that. What the fuck is that supposed to mean? If I give him the benefit of the doubt that he must have some inkling about how the long distance buying and selling process works, which he should by now because at the very least this is the third time we've been through this, then who are you guys and why is he pondering this in his free time? And if he has, in fact, been wondering about it, how in the fuck has he not figured it out? How much time and energy does it truly take this man to navigate mundane situations? Or perhaps a better question is, what is this conversation really about in his mind? Now, I could hear like and think, imagine people saying like you're overthinking it, right? That it's like it's just off the cuff things. But like I said, 3 times, and he's saying things like, I was wondering how you guys do this. We're doing it the way everybody does this. And like I said, it was kind of a snap epiphany. I didn't think it this deep in the moment. This is kind of like one of those shower thoughts, or like as you're laying in bed at night trying to fall asleep, and then your brain just goes, that was a weird fucking thing for him to say. You know what I mean? And then you realize, like, yeah, it really was, right? This is something I definitely, quote unquote, overthought after the fact, okay? So, just how little mental energy was put into this exchange? Let me count the ways in which it was done by reverse engineering this vapidness. Number one, why would I need to print out the shipping label if it's not postage? If it's not the postage for the package, then what am I printing out? I am obviously dexterous enough to write a fucking address on an envelope. So why on earth would I be sending him to print an address label? Maybe it's a brand label or a return address label. If that were the case, then why on earth would I not see the obvious utility of printing off multiple copies at once? Respectively speaking, it's not likely that someone operating a business and or someone that would, for whatever reason, be sending out multiple items with a reasonable expectation of having them returned or with a desire for the recipient to have their address, such as in the case of sending holiday cards, would not wholeheartedly recognize the benefit of having many of these kinds of labels on hand. Seriously, how dumb would someone have to be in order to be dumber than the person making such an obvious suggestion? right? So this is one of the things where I said it's like a lot of the time he really was insulting my intelligence. And after a while, I had to stop and think either he's actually this dumb and this cocky that he does not understand that the things that he thinks are these genius ideas are just everyday, normal, average level intelligence, and that to think that he is coming up with these amazing ideas and leaving people awestruck is really mentally ill, right? How over the course of all of these dozens and dozens of years that you've been on the planet, you don't understand that you're just actually not that much brighter than most people, right? Um, and then on the other hand, to not be able to recognize either that assuming that the person you're talking to doesn't also know these things leads you to be an insulting prick, right? So if anything, oh no, we moved. So yeah, so like I said, like a lot of this that's going on in this anecdote is really strong evidence, in my opinion, for at least that he qualified for some kind of a diagnosis that would make having a live-in caregiver, even if it was just quote unquote companionship services for this man, was actually a deeper level of care than whoever did this to me was giving him credit for. But the weird thing is if you want somebody to be spending all of their time with somebody, if I had a paycheck, I wouldn't want to be there, right? So it's like what you do is you remove the reward and the compensation from the immediate moment, right? Or what have you. Because, like I said, wait for it. Because after this situation, when I go into the next thing that happened to be when I finally got out of this situation, it's just a nonstop fuckathon. Like I can't, I cannot stress enough how much I hate my fucking life. I hate it. And I'm 99.999% sure somebody fucking did this to me. This is some weird ass job or some weird ass mission ship. And I don't know who the fuck did it to me. But if they could leave me the fuck alone, it would be great. I'm asking this question in a chicken or the egg sort of, which came first? He certainly fits the criteria for a diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, and he certainly seems to suffer from some sort of intellectual disability, ID. The problem with the latter, however, is that it's not possible for me to determine whether or not the apparent ID has been lifelong or whether or not this is a result of aging or some other life event. For instance, I have seriously considered the possibility that he ate lead paint chips as a child. It just struck me the weirdness of this problem of coming up with this, right? With my sister, like I said, I'm 99.999% sure somebody fucking did this to me. I also get the impression that I was born to do this. Like my entire life has been surrounded by this bullshit. And like I said, it's like as my story goes on and on, right? As I tell more of it, I've most people, even that I've given slivers to, are like, yeah, this shit sounds fishy as fuck. Um, I did not come up with that idea on my own either. There was a weird, and I'm even like remiss to say this, but there was a somewhat weird conversation that I had with somebody once, that, like, I guess you could say, for lack of a better term, like opened my eyes to it. Like they didn't say it directly, but they were definitely strongly hinting at it as a possibility. And it's kind of funny because if I'm correct, this is overwhelmingly extreme, right? And that's what that it's like it's unbelievable. It's literally unbelievable. Not just like, oh my god, it's fucking unbelievable. Yeah, like this is unfucking believable, unfucking believable that people would do something like this to somebody on purpose to just fuck with their life like this and manipulate them into situations to see how somebody handles it. Like my whole life has been what, training me so that I can get punked in the most ridiculous fucking ways possible. It's absurd. How do you even choose who gets fucked like this? Okay, so anyway, all that being said, now that you think I'm a complete fucking drip, all right? Anyway, so, but this, like I said, it's like if this apparent, whatever this is, this derp shit is, has been lifelong, or if this is some weird shit that I fell into by accident. Like somewhere along the way, I accidentally gave somebody the impression that I was applying or nominating myself for this bullshit, that somebody thinks I volunteered for this and I have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. I always think, I don't know if you've seen the movie, a lot of people have, a lot of people haven't, but the new, like the vampire movie from a couple of years ago, The Invitation. So I'm just going to spoil this part. That when he was hitting on the chick and they finally sleep together, and the following morning during their pillow talk, he makes this side comment about like, because she was there for a wedding anyway, but didn't realize that he was going to mind fuck her into agreeing to marry him, and that that was the wedding she was there for in the first place. So when he's like all sweet talking her and is like, how about like, what if we just got married today too? And she's like, haha, oh my God, you're so funny. And then he kind of like talks her into agreeing to it, right? Where it's like that. I think that's some shit that happened to me. But I also think that I was born to be put in that position at some point. Like I'm just the dumb bitch that accidentally said sure to somebody seemingly offering something that I didn't take seriously in the first place, right? I don't. It's it's freaking bizarre. So anyway, we'll see. Okay, if anything, the worst that can happen is somebody just snipes me sitting here on the street talking about this, and honestly, it would be an upgrade. So fuck it, I don't care anymore. So back to counting the ways. Moving on, in keeping with the theme, two. If I could use multiple copies of this paid shipping label, then what need is there for paying for shipping ever again? I could just use my counterfeit post office. This is the epiphany of idiocy I alluded to earlier. When he seemed to understand what the label is, his suggestion was to ask why I don't print off multiple copies, right? Which therein indicates that he still doesn't have a clue. He still doesn't get it. Which, as I said, led to my answer regarding the fact that the labels are produced specifically for a particular purchase based on the buyer, right? Do you want to go around one more time? How many rounds of this do we have to go? Because we're just going around and around in circles with you being a dipshit that doesn't fucking understand anything. Okay? The functional implication of his remarks, strictly speaking, is that people could photocopy postage stamps. This leads me to the final piece of this odd exchange puzzle. Number three, what was up with the I've been wondering how you guys do that comment? You know, it's occurred to me since the bus is here, I'll step to what I was saying before about it being unbe-fucking believable. It's unbe-fucking believable. I'm not allowed to quit either because nobody's doing anything, right? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yeah, we don't know what your crazy ass is talking about. Nobody's doing this to you. I had a conversation with my dad one time too, and he said, like, you know, you've made all your own decisions. But it's like, but within the confines of what worldview structure? Right? So, like, you're telling me I've made all of my own decisions, but if they were mis or malinformed decisions and purposefully mis, under, or malinformed decisions, I haven't been making my own decisions. You've been making them for me through manipulation and gaslighting. Right? Sophie's choice isn't really a choice because her choice would be not to kill either of her children. Right? It's like that saying that, well, she made her decision. Well, I mean, is it really a decision? I mean, this is just a basic philosophical problem, right? This is a philosophy 101 weird ass first assignment essay paper to find out what students can write like. You know what I mean? It's a bullshit assignment. Okay, so anyway, so then back to this. Right? However, it stands to reason that someone who claims to be involved in legal research and presentation would appreciate the value of accurate linguistic behavior in everyday life. In other words, real recognizes real. In the sake of interest, I'm going to go ahead and smoke this cigar. Assuming that this was an accurate depiction of his mental state, the first problem is the combination of not being able to figure out a process that is so straightforward and also being completely unashamed to admit that. What's interesting about this is that this is both a symptom of NPD and a diminished intellectual capacity a la Dunning-Kruger. It's an inability to accurately assess both his lack of understanding of the topic as well as an inability to recognize that there should be a certain amount of humility involved in admitting to the blunder. Right? At what point, asking somebody to explain something to you over and over and over again, do you not start being a little bit embarrassed of yourself? Because you at least feel like, I'm sorry, like, I still don't understand, right? I don't understand why you can't just print off multiple copies, right? And if you have to get down to a nitty gritty of stepping him through the process, right? You could pick up a pencil, right? And be like, if you buy this pencil from me for $5, but I'm going to charge you 50 cents to stretch my arm out to hand it to you, right? And instead, you could just hand me a sheet of paper that's worth 50 cents, right? Just however you would need to explain this, right, to actually get it through to him. But to not, after repeatedly wanting this explained, right? So this leads to another kind of supposition that you can make here is it would imply that he understands that this is supposed to be a difficult concept to grasp. So we're right back to what the fuck does he think this conversation is about, right? What is he trying to understand? And so I think I mentioned in other anecdotes and other notes, right, where that if he was starting to suspect, and I was thinking to myself last night, I might as well just spit it out here then. All they would have to do to get him to agree to this would be present him with the informed consent of exactly what this was supposed to be about, right? That it's like, we want to do a case study on an individual with XYZ qualities, da 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 da. Do you want to participate in this? This is what we would have you do. You would live with somebody who would be able to cook, da 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 da, cook and clean and do things, and you have a roommate, and yada yada yada. Do you want to do this? And he was like, fuck yeah. And he has no idea that he is the person who's being studied. He doesn't know that he's the person with XYZ qualities. So remember in episode 1, when I mentioned anosognosia, right? Because he suffers from literal inability, a neurocognitive disorder that does not allow him to understand that he doesn't understand, right? The way that he is. It's part of the disorder. He would fall for something like this hook, line, and sinker. So if you were looking for somebody that would just kind of exhibit that they had this anosognosia, right? Presenting them with this as the informed consent to participate in the study would be exactly how you would go about this really easily. So that's why I think I mentioned before too that this is why in a certain sense I can have some compassion for him in the sense that he was also fucked into this because that's gaslighting in a certain twisted sense, right? Letting somebody think that they were agreeing to be part of a study, but not understanding that they were the study is a little bit deceptive. And mind fucking the researcher or fucking the life of the researcher up so that they're vulnerable enough to then agree to this situation as well after being basically begged and prodded by the person that they were leading on, right? So like then they're pushing him to treat me the way that he's treating me in order to keep the process going, right? So like in a weird sense, it's like me doing this is exactly what they want me to be doing. And they fucked my life up again to put me in a position where I have nothing left that I can try to do. You think I'm doing this sitting at bus stops and out in public because I have somewhere to live? Because if you're sitting back listening to this wondering, why the fuck doesn't she just like go home and do this somewhere quiet? Because I don't have anywhere quiet to do it. Because they fucked me over again. They did it again. And when I tell the story of how I got fucked over into being homeless again, that's something that will definitely resonate with everybody because it has to do with landlord-tenant issues. And it won't matter whether you're a landlord or a tenant or just own your home and have some idea of what human decency and not being a fucking asshole looks like. You will understand and grasp why I am pissed off. I am pissed. And I think whoever's doing this is either going to kill me over it or never let me go because I'm pissed off. All right? Anywho, that all being said, like I said, getting shot in the face would be an upgrade from whatever the fuck this life is. A fucking upgrade. But I'm not going to do it myself because I'm not the one who deserves to die. The fucked up thing is that what I have to live for is seeing this through to figure out what the fuck it is and what the fuck these people want. To be more crass about it, it's this inability to recognize the stupidity of misunderstanding the concept itself, coupled with the stupidity of brazenly admitting it to others that makes this a perfect example of what I find perplexing about this man. He isn't just stupid. He proudly proclaims it implicitly, often by making inappropriate assertions with respect to others. Case in point, Last night I mentioned that I want to go downstairs to the community room and clean up the fitness equipment. It's in a corner of the room near open windows, and much of it is filthy from lack of use. So, like, because here in Hawaii, like the temperature, I always say, like, what's the weather like? 78 degrees and balmy. I mean, it's like it's almost always the same, right? So a lot of people have these things that are called jalousie windows. It's like where there's just the little like 4 inch slats of glass that then just open and close, and everybody just always has the windows open. So the little corner of the fitness room is literally just an airflow with these windows. And so a lot of the equipment, it actually just gets really dusty and it's dirty. And because it hasn't been used in a long time, everything is just kind of filthy. So I was like, if I'm going to go down there and work out on a regular basis, the first thing I need to do is actually just go down there and clean the equipment. So anyway, he tells me not to use a wet rag on the electronics. I retort, obviously perturbed, and state that I understand that water damages electronics, and he laughs. Like he finds it funny when he pisses me off. But it's because I think in a certain sense he doesn't understand that I'm actually pissed off. Like I'm not just like, well, I know. I'm like, bitch, I fucking know. And if you tell me some dumb shit like this again, I'm gonna push your ass out the fucking window. Like he had no ability even to grasp like how irritated I actually was. Right. So like, sometimes I look back on it, I'm like, maybe I wasn't forceful enough with exhibiting how irritated I was with him. And then I think about it and I'm like, no, you were straight off biting his head off sometimes and he would just laugh at you for it. This is torture and abuse. Right. And I think that whoever set this up, because this what I'm doing right now is tantamount to him laughing at me when he pissed me off. I'm gonna put your whole fucking world on Front Street, motherfucker. I mean, this is just the weirdest fucking shit to have done to people ever. Ever. What the fuck is this shit? Why? Why? I don't understand it. Why? What the fuck is the point of this? And it's like, this is the point. We need to have a serious discussion about how insidiously dangerous stupid people are. But the funny thing is the insidiously stupid, dangerous people are the ones who fucking did this to people. Not the people they did it to. The people who are doing this shit. What the fuck? All right. Anyway. Most people would notice their mistake and say something along the lines of, oh, silly me, or sorry, of course you know that already, or some other indication that they are in the same world of respectful, cooperative understanding and communication. Instead, he and other narcissists like him do not recognize the communicative implications that they have committed an interpersonal faux pas. Snarky retorts are interpreted as sarcastic jokes. Surely you jest when you call me Captain Obvious. Ah! This is something that will be explored more pointedly in part two, where I describe the diagnostic criteria in general. So, meaning part two of the book, because originally part one was going to be all these raw journals and anecdotes, and part two was going to be me, like, actually espousing my thesis. But I did that on its own instead, like 2 years ago, as a published book, and, filed for my copyright and got my copyright. And then a few months later, I got a letter in the mail that all of my student loans had been forgiven. And guess what, bitch? They fucking were. It wasn't some weird ass off, like whatever, like, nope, just all of a sudden I published a book about this shit and then poof, $118,000 worth of student debt just disappeared. Like, riddle me this, Batman. Who the fuck is doing this to me? Who the fuck do you think? What entity do you know of in your life that is so insidiously fucking dumb that this is exactly the sort of shit that they would be fucking with people to do? Because they've done it before, and why in the fuck would they ever stop doing it? They've just gotten better at trying to cover their asses. That's it. For now, suffice it to say that although for many people it would make sense to interpret the laughter in response to my aggravation as a sign of fear or embarrassment, in his case that interpretation is unfounded. He is laughing at my frustration, not taking it as an indicator to change his behavior. If he did, this wouldn't happen at least 3 times per week. This gaslighting through experiential dominance is one of the trademarks of NPD that leads to people coming out of relationships with narcissists with psychological damage of their own. If you buy into the fact that this person is similarly indicating that you're being ridiculous and calling out their transgression, you will either A, wind up a doormat that never speaks up for yourself, or B, develop this behavior by picking up the habit, or, worst case, C, come to believe that this is the appropriate way to behave as opposed to communicating with common decency and respect. Right? If the gaslighting works and you doubt your reality enough, you'll come to think, maybe everybody really is just an asshole and I'm being too nice. They are attempting to teach you that standing up for yourself to them is inappropriate. That's their self-centered ego talking nonsense. Don't fall for it, right? The cognitive dissonance that this causes. Am I supposed to be acting like them? Because if I act like them to them, I can't get anywhere because they think it's funny, right? But then they try to act like your problem is you don't stand up for yourself enough. But when you stand up for yourself to them, they call you a fucking bitch or quit being so grumpy or they just laugh at you, right? It's all over the place. That's why a lot of people who've been in relationships with narcissists of whatever form, right? Parents, child, romantic, workplace, just some dumb fuck you know and see on a regular basis, whatever it is. They say it's like living in the twilight zone, right? That this person actually lacks so much of a stable understanding of their own selves that they're constantly just all over the place. So anyway, moving on, the next 2 points, which are problems of reference. The use of the group indicator "you guys" can charitably be contributed to an accurate depiction of my involvement in an entire process. The problem with using this comes from the context of the bizarre preface of having wondered how the process worked. Not only had I briefly explained the process twice before providing the presumably sufficient information that the shipping label is package postage, the process is not so difficult to figure out solely based on his own experience with buying and selling online. It would make perfect sense to just equate my process of using Poshmark with the process of using eBay and move on with this his own business. That's point number two. Why does he even care this much? Why can't it just be the case that he offers to pay to ship the package? I respond that that's what the label is for, and he moves on with his own life. I say no, and that's the end of the conversation. This is another recurring theme that will come up in more detail in part two. So, with that being said, I don't think this was presented to him in the context of being some kind of psychological case study, right? A behavioral case study. This was presented to him as part of some sort of investigation. Like, if you were presented with an like, hey, we're doing this investigation of this like stuff that's going on, and you can help us with this. What we want you to do is give this person a place to live, and then just follow our instructions of how to check in, and basically like what they're trying to do is get me to like slip up and offer information that I don't actually have because I don't have a clue what's going on. Torture, basically. No one's shoving bamboo under my fingernails, but this shit right here, if that's what they were doing, setting me up to live with this prick for 5 years so that he could constantly bug me like this, trying to get me to slip up and say something that would incriminate me or something, was fucking bullshit. Because from my perspective, I was actually actively taking care of somebody, providing what I would consider to be excellent care to someone who was psychologically problematic, someone with severe mental illness that needed somebody in their immediate space so that they weren't bothering their neighbors. And so as this goes on, you'll see there were instances of bothering the neighbors. Um, like I said, that it's just like someone needs to be there to be the person that's standing between him and always going outside and fucking with other people, right? Whatever it is, right? But this it's almost like now when I'm reading back through these journals several years later, like there's no way that this wasn't some kind of fucking setup. There's no way this just organically happened. But then there's the part of me that's agnostic that thinks this is exactly the argument that religious people make about the complexity of the world and how there has to be an intelligent designer. There's no way that all of this has arisen without it just being some kind of purposeful design by someone or something much greater than ourselves. But I would say though that I can easily comprehend how people could do this to other people. And like I said, I'm agnostic. I'm not even actually atheist. I just think that if there was a greater intelligence that designed all of this stuff, it would serve no purpose for it to be letting us know, right? I don't believe in God, but I'd be willing to believe that we're brains in a vat, right? That it's like my religiosity, my deistic thinking ends at the matrix, right? It's like it exists in the realm of the matrix. I don't think Sky Daddy exists. It wouldn't make sense for Sky Daddy to do all of this and care about our thoughts and prayers either. But anyway, like I said, That's all stuff that I don't want to get into. If you believe that, then you believe it. Like that's like cool for you, right? It doesn't hurt anybody until you start hurting people with it, right? That's like, so. Like I said, I don't care, right? That's what I was like. You could be a devout Catholic and we can still chill. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't bother me. Because, like I said, at the end of the day, I'm open to anything. I'm agnostic, and that doesn't make you a fence sitter that needs to decide one way or the other. I just think it doesn't fucking matter. Right? My thing is like even if God was real, I don't think he'd give two shits in the fuck. He's sitting up there. He would want to watch his experiment play out. We're like things growing in a petri dish. It would be fun to see what we do with the gifts that he gave us, not trying to manipulate and do things. Right? Like he's not playing with us like Barbie dolls in a house. Right? He's watching us like ants in an ant farm. Anyway, so like I said, just to put that out there so that people don't get all butthurt and offended, I don't see any problem with people actually being, I don't see any problem with people being deistic or theistic. I see a problem with using it as a reason to like rape and pillage people. Right? So like all that being said, um, I'm going to stop that here because I think that is a really good place to stop, and it's probably another one that's gone on for long enough. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye. If I'm still here, shit.